5 years ago, after the U.S. women's gymnastics team won gold in the 2016 Olympics, the fire alarm rang in their Rio apartment complex. Simone Biles, still wearing the smile of a champion, grabbed her gold and let her teammates out of the building as she had led them to victory the night before. She had worked long and hard for that medal, and she was holding on to it. A month ago, at the 2021 Olympics, Biles shocked the world when she pulled out of the team competition, citing twisties, a mental disconnect. Lost in midair, she had no way of knowing what was up and what was down. Performing under these conditions would threaten her teammates' chance at a medal, and much more significantly, it would put her physical safety and her future at risk. Simone Biles, who knows how to grab hold of the bar, the beam, the vault, at the precise angle, in the precise moment, who flips and flies through the air with superhuman strength and agility, has now shown us, both on and off the apparatus, the power of knowing when to hold and when to let go. Simone intuits this balance through her talent, but she has honed this skill after years of training and life experience. Perfecting the rhythm of grab and release isn't easy. It takes practice. This is why, as the gates of the new year swing open and the gates of last year swing closed, Judaism has us take an accounting of our lives, directing us to seriously consider what we want to carry forward and what we want to leave behind. Tradition helps us do this by urging us to face our mortality, having us reenact our entire life's journey over these 10 days. We move from Rosh Hashanah, the day when we are born anew, to Yom Kippur, this day when we rehearse our deaths. No drink, no food, no creature comforts. This compacted lifespan brings into focus the preciousness and precariousness of our existence. Poet Yehuda Amichai does just this in a few words, imagining the dates that will be one day on his tombstone. He writes, just a hyphen separating them. I hold onto that hyphen with all my being. Picture it. Hanging on to that high bar hyphen, which is our life. We will swing from day to day with much greater ease if we fortify ourselves with what strengthens us and free ourselves from what drags us down. So on this sacred night that invites us to change, let's spend the next little bit of time reflecting on when to hold on and when to let go. And let's consider this both as members of a larger community and also as individuals living personal lives. When clearing out closets and struggling with what to keep and what to discard, the organizing guru Marie Kondo suggests we hold each item, take a moment, and ask ourselves, does this spark joy? Now that might work with clothing and tchotchkes, but there are more powerful reasons for us to hold on. Simone, history's most decorated gymnast, was already known as GOAT, greatest of all time. So why did she go through the pain and effort for more years of training to participate in the second Olympics? Now, clearly she loves her sport, but she had other motivation. Simone is one of the hundreds of girls and teens sexually abused by Larry Nassar, former doctor for the U.S. gymnastics team who was given responsibility to keep them safe and healthy. And she is the only high-profile survivor still competing. She wanted to keep us focused on this crime so it's not just yesterday's news. And she wanted to prevent the U.S. gymnastics governing body from brushing their complicity to the side. In Simone's words, I felt like I had a purpose to be a voice for the younger generation, to make change happen. I feel like I've done that, like God has called me. The question, does it spark joy, would have fallen short for Simone in deciding whether to keep competing or not. Her motivation is better articulated by a character in the novel Here I Am by Jonathan Safran Foer. A 13-year-old boy speaking at his bar mitzvah reminds his congregation and ours, you only get to keep what you refuse to let go of. Not every B'nai Mitzvah student that teaches from this bima speaks with the precocious wisdom of an acclaimed author. I mean, they're all brilliant. But that's not even the point. Each of them, all children who become B'nai Mitzvah, who stand before their communities on the bima and teach Torah, they are doing something far more important than sharing words of wisdom. They represent families who have refused to let go of Judaism, and that is no small thing. Every time any one of us holds on to Judaism in any way, we make a difference. A college student hangs a mezuzah in their dorm room. A family collects change out of their pockets every day and puts it into its tzedakah box. We get so frustrated with the world, so we decide to work with Hayas or the ADL or Trua in pursuing justice. It matters. When we join a synagogue, when we remain members of a synagogue, when we engage with our synagogue, it matters. Engaging with Judaism comes easier to some than others, but it always takes effort. Hopefully, your efforts strengthen you. They certainly strengthen the Jewish people. As we will read tomorrow in Deuteronomy, by holding on, you make a difference for everyone here this day and everyone not here this day. Apologies, had a little. Consider this Hasidic Holocaust tale, which blends fact and fantasy. A rabbi and his friend, imprisoned in a labor camp, stand with the other inmates before an enormous pit that will be their mass grave. The guards taunt and torture the prisoners, saying they can save their lives by leaping across the pit to the other side. The rabbi and his friend survive to tell the story. Sometime later, the friend asks the rabbi how it was that he did the impossible and leapt all the way across that pit instead of falling to his death. The rabbi answered, I was holding on to my ancestral merit I was holding on to the coattails of my father and my grandfather and my great-grandfather of blessed memory. Then the rabbi said, "Tell me, my friend, how did you reach the other side of the pit?" And his friend answered, "I was holding on to you." By joining together for Yom Kippur tonight, we are holding on to our ancestors' coattails, and we are holding on to each other. It matters. Does Judaism spark joy? Confession. For me, not always. Ask my husband about the sparks that fly whenever I'm writing my high holiday sermons. And I bet that if we ask the B'nai Mitzvah students practicing their Hebrew, or the parents nagging the B'nai Mitzvah students who practice their Hebrew, or the cantors nagging the parents to nag the children to practice their Hebrew, well, it's not always a joyful exercise. Kind of like the many hours Olympic athletes put in at the gym. Now, these efforts often lead to joy, but more importantly, they strengthen and enrich us. Not letting go means our children and their children and theirs and theirs and theirs will have coattails to hold on to. From the communal, we now move to the personal struggle of discerning when to hold on and when to let go. Our ancestor Jacob, well, he could have been an Olympian. He and his twin brother Esau were already wrestling in the womb. Esau crossed the birth canal first, with Jacob grasping onto his heel. Jacob couldn't shake off coming in second. His whole life, his whole youth, he was chasing after his twin, grabbing Esau's inheritance, grabbing Esau's clothes, even his name, and finally, stealing Esau's most prized possession, their father Isaac's blessing. Esau's anguished cry, "Father, don't you have another blessing for me?" pierces through the centuries and stabs at our hearts still today. The saga of these twins is told from the perspective of Jacob, but as the narrative unfolds, it's clear that both brothers carried the intensity of their emotions for years, hurting themselves in the process. Esau's justified anger became a yoke, controlling him and the way that he moved through his life, and Jacob spent decades trying to run from shame that clung to him wherever he went. First, let's take a look at Esau. After Jacob ran off with the gold prize blessing, Isaac eked out a consolation prize for his firstborn son, saying, "When you decide to free yourself, you will release Jacob's yoke from your neck." Thanks, Dad. Not the most comforting words for Esau to hear. When you decide to free yourself, you will release Jacob's yoke from your neck. But as we know, many of us from both sides, often the words of parents that we discard when we are young come back to teach us something when we grow older. But the fact is, in the wake of that grievous crime, that terrible wrong, that egregious hurt done to him, Esau probably felt so destroyed that he couldn't appreciate or absorb those words. An obvious hint is that he threatened fratricide, a weapon aimed at his brother, which ultimately hurt his parents. The text provides a quieter detail, often overlooked, revealing how, in holding on to hurt, Esau wounds himself. After Isaac bestowed the blessing meant for him on his brother, Esau was consumed by a desire to do the impossible, to undo the crime that had been done to him. He made a decision about who to marry, hoping to win back his father's favor, hoping to restore his place in the family. Now, maybe Esau had a happy marriage and maybe he didn't. The point is that he made this impactful personal decision while caught up in the grip of emotion and based on what he thought would please somebody else. He became a victim of his agony more than a victim of those who wronged him. Now let's turn to Jacob. A Talmudic dictum teaches, "Tefasta merubah lo tefasta." If you take hold of too much, you hold nothing. In his effort to undo, Jacob leaned in. 2 wives, 2 handmaids, 13 kids, masses of sheep, camels, cows, donkeys, rams, and immense wealth later, Jacob still couldn't quiet the agitation that gnawed inside of him. He asked Esau to meet up and set aside a bunch of livestock, planning to pay his brother back in goods for the invaluable gift he had stolen so many years earlier. The evening before their reunion, Jacob, alone in the wilderness, wrestled once again. This opponent was a mysterious stranger. The text introduces him from Jacob's perspective as Ish, as a man. Later, the stranger himself implies that he is a divine creature. Our sages, they tell us he is an angel. Whoever, whatever he was, it was a tight match that lasted through the night. This Ish was strong, but Jacob, a natural competitor, had decades of training for this moment. As the sun started to rise, the stranger stole a page from Jacob's playbook and played dirty, wrenching Jacob's hip. Even the waves of excruciating pain couldn't hold Jacob back. As my colleague, Reverend Barbara Brown Taylor, writes, Jacob got hold of someone who smelled of heaven, and there was no way he was letting him go. He demanded the angel give him a blessing, one that he had worked for, one that he had fought for, one that was meant for him. The angel acquiesced. Jacob emerged victorious with a new name that we still carry, Israel, with a permanent injury, and with an unabashed humility he never had before. The next day, the 2 brothers approached one another. Jacob limped toward Esau, pausing every few steps to bow deeply before him. Esau ran to his twin, fell on his neck, and the last clinging remnants of Jacob's shame fell away. The brothers held each other and wept. This embrace is a powerful picture of holding on after letting go. And if this was a fairy tale or a Netflix drama series, the story would have ended here. But this is Torah, which concerns itself with enduring truths, not happy endings. After that long embrace and catching up, expressions of heartfelt generosity, the brothers part, saying, "See you soon." Well, they don't. At least the text doesn't record any family dinners or a guy's night out. Other than getting together to bury their father, we never hear of Jacob and Esau together or even communicating again. Some relationships aren't the way we wish they would be. and hanging on to the dreams or beliefs of what we think they should be obscure the blessing of what is. A relationship doesn't have to spark joy all or even most of the time to be worth holding on to, for it to matter. There will always be distance between these twins, but it will no longer be fraught. It will be free. That space allows a flow of love and connection, even if the two of them are never on the same side of the desert again. An efficient way to clean out messy drawers may be to hold each object and ask, does this spark joy? A more incisive question when it comes to the stuff of life is, does this smell like heaven? Meaning, does this have some kind of sacred purpose? Will holding on make a difference to me, to those I love, to those in the future? Will letting go help me live with pain rather than cause pain? Will holding on energize me forward or weigh me back? Will letting go give me greater strength and buoyancy to swing on that high bar hyphen that is my life? Simone is a once-in-a-generation, perhaps a once-of-all-time talent. The rest of us, well, sometimes we're Jacob, carrying the shame of wounding the ones that we love. Sometimes we're Esau, carrying hurt heavily inside of us. As we draw to an end of our time together on this Kol Nidre, let's take just a moment to prepare for tomorrow's task of beginning to hold and let go. If you're comfortable, please close your eyes. First, I invite you to reflect upon something that takes effort but brings you a sense of purpose, a relationship, an activity, a mission, something that you want to hold onto with greater intention. Now let's take a few deep breaths, and concentrating on your inhales, breathe that deeply in. Now reflect on something that you're tired of carrying, a calcified anger, a shame, a self-doubt, something you are ready to put down and leave behind. Hold that in your mind and again take a few deep breaths, and this time concentrating on your exhales, sigh that out. Your eyes are closed. I invite you, if you would like, to open them. Perhaps after services we will write these down, or maybe tuck them away in neatly organized drawers of memory. Either way, we will pull them out tomorrow, and we will get to our sacred work. What is it we want to hold on to? What is it we want to let go? Look, the gates of the new year are swinging open before us, inviting us to possibility. We can learn, and when we do, we can practice, And when we do, we can change.
Is anybody out there? Is anybody listening? Does anybody really know if it's the end of the beginning? The quiet rush of warm breath is all we're waiting for. Sometimes the one we're taking changes everyone before. It's everything you wanted, it's everything you don't. It's one gate swinging open and one gate swinging closed. Some prayers find an answer, and some prayers you never know. We're holding on and letting go. Sometimes we're holding angels, and we never even know. Don't know if we'll make it, but we know we just can't let it show. It's everything you wanted, it's everything you don't. It's one gate swinging open and one gate swinging closed. Some prayers find an answer, some prayers you never know. We're holding on and letting go. It's everything you wanted, it's everything you don't. It's one gate swinging open and one gate swinging closed. Some prayers find an answer, and some prayers you never know. We're holding on, letting go.